Hey, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings. It really isn't. It's just, yeah, I don't know what it is. Okay, it's me making a video attempting to explain to you that life isn't all that complicated. I mean, it's a thing, a system functioning. The universe, everything that ever was or ever will be is just byproduct of a system. You're just part of a mechanism, just part of a thing that's doing this cause and effect thing. And you can get into the physics, and talk about just these little elemental bits and the possible patterns they can create and arrangements that can be created. Or you can go through it with, starting with life and the DNA molecule and how does this evolve into more and more systems. I mean, the DNA is making systems. It makes livers and it makes kidneys and it makes this. And it's making a machine that has to function in an environment. It has to function by rules. It can't do certain things, like your heart can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to take some time off. I'll just sit here for a while and rest." Different rules that this system has to work under. The original life forms like moss or something, the idea was make as many spores, make as many, lay as many eggs as possible, lay eggs everywhere, just because it was a war of numbers. But then organisms found out that, well, if there's a lot of you, you become food for other organisms. They find it convenient to learn how to eat you because there's a lot of you. That's not good. That can be fatal to your future. Then you overpopulate, which is also a problem because you start fighting with each other over space, and so then you end up becoming very unproductive, in the sense that you're like the snake eating its own tail. You're just people chewing each other's legs off. So you're like a bunch of insects that just learn how to eat each other's legs, and wow, you're not going to live very long that way. So there's all these rules for the system. So here, it's just another system of persuasion, another mechanism. This is how you persuade somebody. This is how you blah, blah, blah. Everything is a mechanism under certain rules, and then you can be effective at it. Okay, like an engine has to have certain things monitoring this, monitoring that. Your own body is constantly being monitored, the chemistry, and it has certain triggers, that are designed to help fix different things, and because it's billions of years of engineering, it's made to work, in the sense it's forced to work, okay, by meeting the test of continually working. There's a ton of examples of things that didn't work, so you can go back in history and find a thing that didn't work, because it's extinct. And it's extinct for a reason, because it was something about its system that didn't match what it needed to be. So there's deficiencies in these videos, obviously. The idea, okay, is for it to spread, for it to impact and to be profound and meaningful, and people, gravitate to it, and they trigger, and they pull the vote switch, and blah, 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 and something happens. It generates momentum. And obviously the wheels aren't hitting the road, and it's not going anywhere. So I mean, I haven't met the environmental standards. I haven't met the conditions of the environment and made a system of explanation that is sufficient. Now, I would argue that the obligation, what I'm attempting to do, is maybe more than any machine can do. Maybe it's trying to make a pig fly. It's not easy. So it's not going to be an easy system for you to come up with, that makes pigs fly. Catapult, I don't know. So, I mean, you have to get people past their silly notions. They have to kill that stupid religious crap, and then get them to understand the physical environment, and that the physical environment makes these, has these physical rules. And then the physical rules are applied, and then life evolves. And even the little thing I keep emphasizing, that we use the word life, and we're not even describing accurately at all. I mean, we have a system of language that isn't even properly identifying things that are fundamentally different. I mean, a single cell is alive. A single cell is a completely different system than the system, the social system made when you put billions of cells together and have them interact and create a brain. This thing with a brain that's made out of billions of cells is fundamentally different than this thing we're calling a life form that's just a single cell. One's a brick and one's a building. They're not, you know, it's just not the same thing. You don't call them the same thing. You have to identify, you know, the stuff in the environment that is different. And so this is what makes this job so difficult, is just the fact that, is the sync okay? Yeah, close enough. Anyway, sorry. Distracted. Constantly. You know, that's part of the system design, is to, you know, we have to be constantly in the game. You know, we have to be planes crashing. You know, we have to be constantly aware of the environment, what's going on, so we can take our advantages. So, I mean, a thought that came into my head previous to making this video, just when I'm thinking about just the concept of persuasion and communication and all this stuff, is the system. You know, so we had a system of slavery, okay, and the ironic thing is that, you know, you could almost argue that it was deliberate, that they migrated slavery into exactly the same thing, but they just took out a couple of the parts, right? So if you could make slaves think they weren't slaves, but they did exactly the same thing, right? They did their work and they didn't kill you, and you know, you had the same rules, but, you know, they don't think they're slaves. All of a sudden it's ethical and decent, and yeah, this works. And the worst thing the master has to endure is, oh, the slaves talk about us behind our back. You know, they call us names and stuff. You know, that's not gonna scare them much. You know, because all they care about is that the slaves don't kill them, right? And that they get lots of work out of them. And so it's just, you know, I would sort of argue that this is the kind of context you kind of have to have before you get into this whole philosophy thing, is some capacity to understand what's sort of obvious. You know, no God, you know, and that the systems we're designing, we're not designing them on purpose. You know, we're just throwing things, you know, like some primitives, we're just throwing stuff into a bucket of water and see if it floats. You know, we're not doing any hard engineering of any of our systems. You know, so we're not recognizing that they're, you know, profoundly flawed, and that all we've really gone is, you know, capitalism is just another way of saying slavery, okay, but it doesn't have those chains and everything. You know, but it's the same difference, right? It's the same. The product is the same. Is grind people's lives up, you know, in service, you know, to the privileged owners. You know. But anyway, I don't want to turn this into a social commentary video. The point is that what triggered this is that I did watch a Modern Mystic video. Another mistake. Okay, you're not supposed to watch this bullshit. And he's talking about fractals and other crap, which is just too silly. But anyway, and so he's talking about wanting to know answers, right? And the fact that now he thinks he's satisfied with his answers, blah 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 blah. You know, but. You know, but he ends with saying you have to read the classics. Like if he was going to give some advice, he'd say read the classics. And it's like, what a pile of crap. I mean, they're telling a story in 5 billion words, okay, using metaphors and using storytelling that is so, you know, you know, you can condense it. It's like you can tell the Frankenstein story in, you know, 5 minutes. If I spent a full 5 minutes, you know, just telling you the Frankenstein story, I can get enough details in there. You don't have to see it dramatized. You know, you really don't need it. So, I mean, reading the classics is just like saying, well, why not just waste a big giant pile of time to figure out 2 + 2? I mean, you know, it's like giving you an instruction book that just does it the hardest way possible rather than the simplest way possible. I mean, I suppose the whole point of people making videos is to say, look, I can do better than the classics. You don't have to read 2 volumes of Schopenhauer to find out, oh, people are assholes. Oh, yeah. Gee, it wouldn't have occurred to me. I couldn't have figured that out unless I read 2 fucking volumes to figure out, oh, people are basically selfish, shitty cunts. And the cunts are really cunts. They're double cunts, those women cunts. Yeah, I need 2 volumes for that. No, I don't do that. I don't need 2 volumes for that. Come on, I can do it. Come on, just give me a few notes and I can get the tune. Alright, I don't need to hear the whole Banjo on My Knee song. Oh, please, don't do that to me. Alright, no, I mean, no, come on. You know, you've heard songs out there, right? That are just the same 2 words over and over. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck, you know, whatever it is. And they just, I put fuck you to, you know, la la, fuck you, fuck you. There's a fuck you song that's actually pretty good. But anyway, I digress. Because it has a few more words in it. You don't have to pay any attention to them because it just kind of goes along and it's okay. But yeah, I'm just saying that some songs are just insanely redundant. You know, just, and you're saying, why am I even listening to this? Because it's so fucking redundant. Alright, so now I'm getting away from the subject. The subject is basically that thing, you know, that there's a system. So, you know, that picture of, you know, predator prey. You know, and these are the systems. And so you could say that, you know, all of the, you know, the life forms, you know, that have survived the gauntlet over time, they've completely changed in their agenda, right? I mean, the original agenda was you had to be a machine that could basically eat rocks. You know, you could eat environmental soup. So you didn't need to have a living thing to eat, right? So the plants, you know, are eating sunlight. And they, you know, and the first ones, like orchids or something, they could live on a rock. You know, they didn't have to, you didn't have to feed them dead people, you know, dead plants. You didn't have to fertilize them with dead things. You know, and I'm just saying this is the system evolution. And so in so many ways you could start right from the beginning and say, just look how corrupt we are because we're the descendants of thieves. You know, because the biological life forms that succeeded, the gladiators who succeeded, killed other gladiators, you know, and their wife and kids or whatever, you know, and stole all their weapons, stole everything they owned, you know, and made it theirs, you know, to make them stronger, to keep them in the fight. And that's when life evolved into something rather insidious, when all the living forms sort of became pariahs. They were all blood-sucking vampires. They all went out and sucked the blood, literally, okay, of other organisms, killed them, and stole their energy. So instead of getting energy from the sun, or from the rocks, or from the, you know, the minerals, or from rust, or from some crud, you know, just some kind of, you know, even before bacteria, you know, just stuff floating in the sea. You know, they became thieves. They went out and found other things, systems, trying to survive, trying to do exactly what they're doing, just trying to survive, and they went out and murdered them, okay, and stole everything they owned. And, you know, that's the premise of the system we're in right now. So we're in a system that started that way. All the organisms are playing the I'm a thief game, you know, all the ones we pay any attention to. All the organisms that could do it the original way, you know, and obviously they can't be as efficient. They can't create technology, you know. So now you could even metaphor it to, you know, I could tell you the whole story of Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal and you know, all the battles. But again, it's just who's taking advantage of the system, who's getting the most out of the system. And clearly the slave owners can get more out of the let's get to the future faster system. They can whip themselves into an immediate, over the short term, they can gain huge advantage in terms of the swords they can make and all the, you know, the weapons of winning. So they can get to the gun first and the cannon first, and then get to all the weaponry first, all the ways to exploit the environment first. They can, you know, they can do it first, and by doing it first, they push everybody else out. And so you can just metaphor it to those kind of systems. They're all just systems. This is what the universe creates more than anything else, is systems, little mechanisms, little eddies of rules, okay? And each eddy has different rules for how things have to, what things have to do to accommodate that environment, to persevere. All right, so that's even a subject. You can say there's short-term gains. There's organisms that do really well for a period of time, and then the time runs out because they have some unsustainable mechanism. Some little thing, little time bomb is ticking. You could argue that human beings sort of have that built into them. They've acquired technology, but can they control the technology well enough to prevent it from poisoning them? You know, from getting blown up by it, or creating a chaos that'll be unsurvivable. That their civilizations won't survive the chaos their lack of attention to these details created. So we have the power before we have the reason skills to be able to use it. That is, you're driving a car when you're 6 years old or something. That's pretty dangerous because you don't understand all the force factors involved in life. You certainly don't understand enough of the physics to understand how many feet you can go before you can stop and all the different things. So I'm just saying you're not going to be a very good driver. Okay, you're going to be a threat. But it's all just systems. That's all this is system. And it's all this systems of these programming. Like I said, this idea that you're in an environment that's trying to make you into an asshole. The assholes need you to be an asshole. You need to vote for asshole. You need to do certain things, or assholes can't take over and win. And that's just the truth of it. So all these systems are competing, in an environment to steal your participation, to get you to lean, to make you feel like, oh, I should lean that way, or I should lean that way, or I should do, and you're just helping steer a boat that will advantage or disadvantage, and will lead to the demise of a future. The place we could go to. The shining city on a hill is sitting there. You can walk to it, okay, but you can't walk to it if everybody leans the wrong way. Then it just, then we can't see the shiny. That path doesn't exist anymore if the boat is turned. So I mean, we can close possibilities based on this simple, trivial little breaks in the mechanism, tiny little, some little regulator on your engine that's testing how hot your oil is, or some pressure regulator, some little mechanism supposed to open, to reduce pressure. It doesn't open when it's supposed to. The pressure builds up, and that creates way too much heat on the cylinder, and then the cylinder gets, the oil starts burning, and it creates crud, and then the crud starts scratching the cylinder, and the whole thing leads to disaster. And it all starts with one little tiny failure. One little hair, gets into the system. One little piece of dirt flies into your carburetor, and turns your engine into shit. That kind of thing. And that's the first book you need to read, is the book of how these systems are just systems. You're just part of a system. You're part of a legacy, a history. The things had to work a certain way to survive, so you understand what you're made out of. Your brain has got, part of this stuff is your little genetic code, where your people have been, what your people have been doing. But a big giant part of the thinking thing is just about what environment you're in, where were you raised, and did somebody tell you, okay, at the appropriate time? Did they give you a nice little bit of ordered instructions about how you just live in a mechanical universe, and you're part of systems? And some of the systems are insanely underdeveloped. They haven't been perfected. They've never put it in a wind tunnel and tested it, or any of that kind of crap. Some of these ideologies, these philosophies, like, gluttony is good. No, it isn't. The bullshit. Okay, so it's all bullshit and bullshit and bullshit. And, people just living on bullshit. You'll be happy if you do this, that, or the other thing. Now, there's simple stuff. You know, Ben Franklin did a lot of this. You don't need to read classics, right? You just read some Ben Franklin quotes. Oh, an apple a day will keep the doctor away. There you go. Penny saved is a penny earned. You know, these those little kernels. Yeah, that's all good stuff. You know, so do I need to read the classics, or do I just need to pay attention to a few little poignant messages out there, giving people reasonable perspective, you know, and just telling them the simple stories that it's not going to be what you think it is. You're just driven, okay? You have a motor that's always on, and it's always pushing you forward, because the alternative is ugly, falling apart and dying. Oh, I don't want to do that. So just go, 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 go. That's how you're mechanically built, is to keep looking forward, and every bit of your psychology certainly is recognizing that. And even though you know I'm going to have to die, you also know I don't want to do it, so what else is there to do except put it off, right? Is there some other rational choice? But again, that's the point. If you use reasoning, you can know, oh, wait a minute, if I have to do it anyway, then I should pick the right time to do it. Yeah, I should engineer the point where there's the least disadvantages and the most advantages in terms of efficiencies. You know, everything's cleaned up. I don't, you know, nobody else has to, you know, deal with a whole bunch of mess to clean up. All of this, you know, that's just being sensible. Is recognizing, well, if I have to do it anyway, it's going to have to happen. Then I should have mechanisms in place to take care of it. You know, I mean, if I know I get a runny nose, you know, when I go outside because there's pollen, then I should take a tissue with me, right? I mean, that's not too hard to figure out, right? So yeah, these are the, you know, but that's negative to our psychology, because it's being prepared and accepting that reality isn't as simple as carrying a tissue. You know, the answer isn't some tissue answer. The answer is some sort of draconian, you know, the right answer is you have to die now. You know what I'm saying? It's one good thing to play the game where you're watching the other predators fall down. You know, you're watching the other prey animals get consumed. And, you know, you're one too. Okay, and you're just pretending, well, it's okay as long as it's not my turn. I mean, that's just irrational, right? To think, well, it's okay because it's not my turn. So as long as it's happening to somebody else, it's not happening. That kind of bullshit. So that gets to the final, you know, I mean, that simple little recognition that, you know, you haven't died yet, you haven't had cancer, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, and yet you're pro-life. Well, yeah, maybe it's because you haven't done any of the parts of life that are, you know, not the fun parts yet. You haven't gotten to the real work, okay? You haven't gotten to the part where you're the slave, you know, to a bunch of functionality that you're not going to like, you know. You're all healthy and strong, okay, and, you know, you got little pert nipples and everything's okay. No, it's not going to stay that way, okay? And you have to understand what you're imposing. And only an idiot or a retard or an insane person, frankly, given the knowledge that that's all you're doing, you're just making something to be a victim eventually, and to have to endure the rather extreme and it's insane price of victimhood, you know, which is being eaten alive, maybe. Of course, we're sort of eaten alive by diseases. You know, it's a very slow way that you know, so it's like being eaten by a crocodile, except it doesn't take, you know, I don't know what, 84 seconds. You know, I don't know how long it's from the moment the crocodile grabs you to the moment you're finally dead. You know, who knows how long that is. But yes, the things we die of are, you know, it's a very slow, you know, dragged into the water by the crocodile. You know, it happens in slow motion. Every little tooth slowly, you know, dents you, gives you a little bit of, you know, it all happens in like slow motion. but it's just as bad. I mean, it's just, obviously I'd say it's just many times worse. What we endure overtly and deliberately. I mean, people are buying into the system that says slow death. Yeah, the slower the better. And the more times I die, the better. So yeah, give me a bunch of transplants and, chemos and, more health. I got a piece of junk mail, and it was like, healthcare is fun. It was made by some company that sells a bunch of treatments. And they actually had on the cover, smiling people talking about how great transplants are, and it's just so fucking funny. They're celebrating disease and dysfunction and surgery and the whole, and it's like yeah, it's a fun part of life. It's like going on vacation. Getting a transplant, yeah, it's like the greatest vacation ever. Look at the shiny beach. It's so much fun. And you're just saying, so this is the system of the propaganda, the bullshit, the the insane messages to keep you enslaved, to keep you a fool, to keep you an asshole, an idiot, a fucktard, keep you playing the game, putting the quarter in the machine. Put another quarter in the machine so we can fuck the victim over. I mean, it's... I was supposed to be doing like a two-face thing, I mean, one message is that, just put happiness on everything, even though it's not happiness. That's not what it produces. But they're selling it as if that's the product, and no, the product is you're in chains and you're being whipped and every bit of value is being sucked out of your existence so somebody else can, drink their tea with their pinky out and laugh. Those suckers. Look what I made them pay for. There's the image of it. So it doesn't seem, I shouldn't be failing because this shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, on paper, when you look at it on paper, and you just say, let me put the concepts here. Okay, evolution. I shouldn't have to prove that. It's so obvious. But you do. Okay. Making arguments about how God isn't an answer. I mean, clearly it doesn't. I mean, what do you think? The answer, we couldn't be created by the universe. We, the dumb system that took billions of years to evolve. That eddy couldn't be made by the universe without a God. But the God could be, right? The God who can make eddies, he can poof. Okay, the universe can just have one of those. But the universe can't just have, human. And again, the argument would be, no, the universe doesn't have one, it made one. But the universe ain't making gods. And if the universe could make a God, let's just say that we could evolve into gods eventually. Why would we be idiots? Why wouldn't God be well experienced in the game? Wouldn't God be, yes, actually have an infinite amount of knowledge about all the failed designs and how that's cruel and that's stupid and that's... Wouldn't God know, well, there's no point in you feeling badly because you have a broken leg? There's a point where, yes, you should know not to walk on it, but there's no point in me driving nails of pain through your bone marrow or something, right? Why should I do that? So I should make this system so you can just turn that button off. Broken leg pain. Oh yeah, I know I have a broken leg. Thank you, system. I'm done having that information. I'll just turn that little switch off, right? Because I don't need to be informed that my leg is broken. I know it's broken. I have it in a cast. It's all fine. I don't need insane amounts of pain. No real purpose. It's just part of the system, right? So the system, we can just look at the system of our own sensations and we can see the preposterous inefficiency of some of the systems, right? I mean, it doesn't make any, it would be so much better if we had those switches, and you had to be smart to hit the switches. You had to, just to prove that, yes, I know the purpose of the pain is to keep me from walking on it, but I can't get to my dinner plate okay, if I can't walk on it. So I have to do some, you know, maneuvering to make things happen. And so there's just no point in making this, you know, I'm just saying we can understand that the systems aren't anywhere near efficient or perfect or any of that stuff. They're just functional. They're just for making crocodiles. So they, you know, they're not eloquent and beautiful and, you know, perfect symphonies and every note is a perfect note. They're just doing the job of the bandwagon, you know, which is to have, you know, just cranky. It doesn't even need to be something you'd even call music. It just has to be somebody banging on a tin can and it's close enough. So that's what we're made out of, is a bunch of really crude and stupid and, you know, incomplete and inefficient systems. But they're good enough to get you to a point. And the point for us as biological organisms is to be able to create social families. You know, that's why we live a little bit longer, is because we have some utility as parents. We have to hang around long enough. We can't just lay the eggs and run. You know, but it could be made so much more efficient. And clearly to impose, when you know what we're really made out of, to keep imposing that is just so stupid. But we'll get to that. I'll take a little pause and be back. See if I can gain a little more perspective. Again, it's just this video isn't intended, okay, to persuade you on any of the individual subjects. It's intended to just point out that this really should be doable in an hour. It really should be possible to give these little pieces of information that you could gain from the classics, right? You can read a classic, and which it's like I said, it's just telling you something really simple in a whole big pile of words. So like every classic book, you know, you could just say, well, what's the story here? Like the great white whale or something, or this, or, you know, that your ambitions are dangerous. You know, different things could just point out, you know, what the message was that you're supposed to glean from the gigantically long and detailed story that's really telling you something really, really simple. And so somebody should just be able to put all the little simple messages together and say, you know, like I've said before, you can't win by making somebody else lose. That's not winning. That's losing. You know, the net product is going to be something, you know, lower than, you know, winning. And it might be higher, a little higher than losing, but it's still not. You can't put them in that category. It's not an accomplishment. It's not going up. It's going down. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah, well, you really do have to use the more extreme cases, I suppose. You know, because people won't get the simpler cases. So you always have to use the extreme cases of torture. You know, yummy cupcake can't be justified by torturing something. You can't pay that price for it. It's irrational. It's insane. It's so unproductive. And I guess that's the thing to argue, is we need a better word for productive. We need a better word to describe when you do something where you're actually gaining rather than losing. A commodity value. I guess that's why this has been tricky, is that whole conversation about what has value and what a positive versus a negative value is more complicated than it should be. It shouldn't be that hard to explain to conscious beings who are experiencing the obvious cavern of difference between the cupcake and torture. But somehow it is. It shouldn't be, but it is. Anyway, it has been so far, you know, for me. Maybe somebody else will say it so well and so clearly that, well, it'll be like, oh, that's, you know, that's so much better, you know. Yeah, maybe. All right, I'll be back. All right, should be back. So things rolling in the head as metaphors. I was thinking of American Indians and how people have this perception that it was all nice and everything was wonderful when no, really it wasn't. And the mechanism that made it sustainable was the fact that there were still sneeches. Star belly sneech versus no belly sneeches versus three belly sneeches, whatever. The whole system kind of depended on everybody regulating everybody else's capacity to grow or expand or take over by killing each other. That's that's how it worked. I mean, the systems were sustainable. The tribes were sustainable because they took a price out of each other constantly to set each other back, to keep each other from doing the expanding thing. And that there's some little trick, a little rule that the South American tribes were able to acquire in terms of a different system. And that system was able to break the barrier to expansion. Now, it might just be the environment. It might just be because the environment was so many more different transitions and environments that something could take an entire mountain, and once it could take a mountain, it could take another mountain, it could take another, different rules about how you do this taking over thing and creating a network or a system of management. And that's the other part of it, right? When the family gets bigger and bigger, then all of a sudden the family becomes the girls against the boys, or it becomes just as segmented as the tribal differences. Within the tribe becomes a bunch of family differences. And then they became adversaries, and so you have to try to prevent that from happening and force people to wave their flag and say, I'm an American. Not a Confederate, I'm American. I'm flying the right flag. So the infighting is what you have to get past. So there's subtle little, I'm just saying there's little tweaks you make to a system in terms of a way of existing or rules. And if they don't find those rules, it fails. And if they do find those rules, it succeeds. And it's that simple. Little regulatory devices that make it go from not working to working. And that's true in every system and every kind of getting to a next step. Now, I've broken rules about communicating in the sense that the first rule is, first make no enemy. Placate your enemies. Talk about how wonderful their big nose is, and how charming, and oh, I love your man boobs. Don't do anything to offend. Then you can just gain support, and you won't. If you have to say something negative, say it in this veiled way. Call them an asshole in some veiled language. You've been insufficiently exposed to the blah blah, say it in some gracefully decent, nice, friendly way, rather than say you're a dumb fuck, or you're an asshole, or whatever. So just to take the tension out, do not trigger, prevent the triggering. So I've triggered, and that's my bad. But part of that is, I suppose, is that I didn't have time to do all this delicate sneaking around and shooting them in the head, from behind and all. I just didn't have time for that. Too many targets, too much stuff to stop, too much stuff to get to. Just don't have time for strategic maneuvering around people's sensibilities and their bullshit. So yeah, I broke that rule. I've done lots of things. I don't support my supporters, in any great way. They don't. They kind of starve to death if they get in my fighting boat. So I should, provide a free lunch and all that kind of stuff. It's a tough boat. Yeah, it's just you're not slaves, but close to it. Because that's, I can't do it any other way. I can't spend a whole bunch of time, oh, how was your day, rower? Did you have a good rowing day? I don't got time to do all this nursemaiding bullshit and, taking care of all the little, all the people who want to help, but, they're handy capable, and I have to build a ramp so they can get on the boat, and blah 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 blah. You know. And there's a lot of those people on this boat, frankly. Okay, I mean, this is a boat that's obviously going to attract people who are going to be, they're going to have it already rubbed in their face that life isn't fair, and it's very impositional because they've been imposed upon. They've had the shit of it, and they're scarred or bent or broken because of it. So, but I'm just saying, there's rules I need to obey. You know, to be able to evolve into the role I, you know, the purpose, to accomplish the purpose. But the fact is, like I said, is that this was a difficult, it's very hard to navigate this take over the world thing, you know. Yeah, it's pretty hard to do. It's not so easy. And unlike, you know, Genghis Khan or something, I just can't go out and force it to happen. Not that he didn't have to be very careful about all his strategic moves, who he did kill, who he did, you know, backstab, who he, you know, all the intrigue that goes into the success of your maniacal, you know, horror figures. But anyway, obviously, I'm a figure for good. I am wearing the white hat, not the, you know, not the Genghis Khan pointy hat thing. But anyway, so yeah, so I keep saying it that the story isn't that complicated, and I could even say that about, you know, I am saying that on my other channel, you know, that the physics isn't that complicated either. It's not all this wooey stuff. It's not all this. There's no magic part to it. We're just machines with an agenda, and the agenda is that we have a narrative, side boob. You know, we have a thing that we're moving. You know, we're attracted to. Okay, and we're a feeding machine, and we have to maintain our existence through, you know, consuming, and that in the system we're in, the environment, the world we've made, the social system, is very pariah. You know, it's very you're not going to get anywhere until you use up some people. You have to snooker some people, and you have to sell them shit they don't need, and you have to do this, and you have to do all this chicanery, okay, where, you know, you cripple somebody else's retirement fund to build your retirement fund. You know, that kind of horse shit has to go on. You have to take it from them to have it. And you know, so many just completely negative things are in this story, and that's all you need pointed out to you, how many negative functions we have. And why the hell would you make another one of these monsters? I mean, why can't you even concede the monster you are? That you will find easy rationalizations for other people's absolute horror. And you don't have the horror merely because, you know, the coin flip. Not for any good reason. There was no deserve that put him in that circumstance and you in your circumstance, and you goddamn know it. Now, there are some elements of, obviously, you get what you get because, you know, you were smart enough to say, well, I'm going to take some time, okay, to learn how to do it right, versus the person who didn't pay any attention to the instruction manual and just, you know, obviously certain things we do have outcomes that are consistent, okay? So you get what you get what you put in, and some people have, you know, take no, you know, they don't wash their car, they don't, you know, they don't do any maintenance, they never check the oil, you know, they don't do anything to expect a different result than failure. And so, yeah, I can understand you saying, well, I shouldn't be in the same position as that person, and I shouldn't really have any empathy because, goddamn, it was so fucking stupid. You know, you can have empathy for their ignorance, but you can't really have empathy for them claiming they're doing something philosophical, that they were smart or that they were doing the right thing, when no, of course they weren't. You were ignoring the right thing, ignoring every bit of advice saying don't do that. So there's all these signals that we're in dysfunction. I mean, huge, loud, beeping, dysfunction, dysfunction, brick wall ahead, brick wall ahead, brick wall ahead. I mean, it's flashing lights. And so you could argue to these natalists, what are you making babies for? What do you think you're going to accomplish by right in the middle of this chaos saying, I'm going to take on this completely different project. I'm not going to fix the world that exists. I'm not going to build a nest. I'm just going to lay eggs because that's what I want to do. I like rubbing the egg and going, ooh, the precious, the precious. I love rubbing the precious egg. What? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, that's the story. Somebody could tell that whole story with 15 different characters and, you know, back in 1643 and blah, 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 and have a whole story. And all the story is really saying is, if you don't have a place to put what hatches out of the egg, if it doesn't have any place to stand, right? You have a world where everybody's standing on a little piece of space and you didn't make any space for this thing to stand on. There's no place for it to live. It has to kill somebody else to steal their little place, their little pedestal to stand on. This is musical chairs. There's no fucking more chairs. Your little egg, okay, that you're polishing is going to have to steal somebody's chair. Well, whose chair it is that gets stolen? Who are you going to have the guts to kill the person and steal their chair for your kid? Or are you going to force your kid to go do it? What the hell is that? You're going to force your kid to build the nest you never built, build the society you never built, do all the work you never did. And clearly we've done that, right? I mean, there's every indication over the last, say, it's not quite 100 years, but since the Great Depression pretty much, right? The 50s anyway. We've had this complete greed psychology in place, and you have basically borrowed the future's money in insane volumes of future productivity, IOUs, on millions of slaves. I mean, you've got IOUs for millions of slave hours of labor out there, and they're all not you. They're all somebody else. You've sold everybody else's chair, okay, in the arena, okay, to make your living, to make your profit in the short term. And they're the ones going to be stuck with the bill. I mean, you've done the whole credit card thing. You've maxed out the credit card and then crossed out your name and put your kid's name on it. I mean, that's literally, factually what we have done as a society. And you don't feel any need to fix that. You're just going to force your kid into exactly what you've created, which is a disaster. And I'm supposed to say, gee, that's perfect, that's fine, that's your free will. You have a right to be a complete maniacal, child molesting asshole. So even that I thought of earlier today, which wasn't very long. Today wasn't very long yet. I thought of whatever they are, Quakers, or what do you call those kooky people that raise their kids and they're, no health care, no everything. You pray every day. You do this stupid milk your cow and, whatever, shoe your horses and do all that crap. And how, I mean, wouldn't you think it child abuse if you were, if you knew ahead of time that's what you were going to be sentenced to? Like, like this really was the reoccurrence of, Nietzscheism, or what I would call the effective reincarnation, in the sense you're just going to keep living these lives. So one minute you're holding the cup of tea, looking out the window at the slaves on the field, and the next version, you're the slave getting whipped, going, fuck that bitch, looking out that window. Right? I mean, the role you're going to play is going to be, you're going to be the victim eventually, right? You might be sitting in the high ground now, but in the next version of the game, you might as well, it's just arbitrary who we get to be. You're not going to be always the privileged. You're always going to hatch out of the golden egg. That's not how the game's played. You're going to arrive here just as dumb and ignorant as you did in every other version, and you're going to have to play the cards dealt you. And would you accept being dealt those shitty cards? Oh, my parents are religious lunatics, and I'm not going to be exposed to knowledge, and I'm going to be trained to be a moron and to, you know, just hammer my nails all day long, and whittle my nails. I mean, oh fuck no, please. So just understand, when you're doing this pro-life thing and pro people being free to be assholes, you're just child molesters too. You're just saying it's okay to molest kids. I don't care. I mean, your ethics are insanely stupid. If you can't say, no, I would stop that. I'd vote against it. You know, nope, can't do that. System rule violation. You know, it should be a system rule violation to oblige something to be, you know, ever endorse any idea of stealing potential and forcing something to be something, essentially. I mean, chaos is bad enough. All the system noise is bad enough. But for us to not even sing a good song somewhere in there, you know, just to pretend all we need is noise. There doesn't have to be any symphony at all. Nothing has to be a coherent arrangement of notes anywhere in this crap. You know, because the system is broken, we have to endorse broken. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, rain. Very loud rain. So, yeah, I guess I better take a pause until that stops happening. Alright, should be back. Finishing up, too bad about the noise. It's tough. It's not that bad. Anyway, as I pointed out before, I didn't need to read any classics, okay, to recognize I was in a dangerous game. I was very apprehensive going into my life, going into the future. Okay, as a kid, I was not very confident it was all going to be just fine. I was pretty afraid of everything. My daily life was just being terrorized, frankly. I was, you know, I was subjected to a lot of bullying and, you know, a lot of, you know, just couldn't find any peace and quiet kind of thing. It was just all this chaos being imposed on me and bullshit. And I was just a simple person who didn't want it. I didn't want trouble. I wasn't looking for any kind of trouble. You know, I was really simple. I didn't need anything complex. You give me a, you know, you didn't even have to give me a, you know, you could give me a stick with a string on it and I could go fishing, even if I didn't catch fish. Because, yeah, I found the whole idea of, oh, tossing this thing out there and seeing if you can do, that was enough. Okay, that was enough of a challenge to say, well, can I make it go a little bit further next time? I don't care if I'm catching anything. You know, what does that have to do with any of this? You know, I could throw rocks into a bucket. You know, just pick up pebbles and throw them into a bucket and see how many I could catch in the bucket. I mean, I could be entertained rather simply. Yeah, anthill. Just watch the ants, put a piece of stuff on the ground, see if they can move it, blah, 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 blah. Simple things. And the outside, you know, the system would keep pushing me, you know, off my little pedestal, off my little toadstool, so to speak, of contentment, and oblige me to do things I didn't want to do. I had no interest in. Drag me here, drag me there, and force me to do this, and, you know, wear this, and do that, and drink this, and time to eat, time to do this, time to do that. I didn't want to hear any of that crap. Well, anyway, and then when I found out how life works, again, that, you know, everything you care about is going to be destroyed, and some, you know, slowly, just slowly, the walls are going to close in and squeeze Granny to death. You know, Grandpa, you know, I love my grandfather. It's going to be slowly squeezed to death. Leukemia and this and that. And he's going to squeeze him until he bursts into, you know. That's going to be the fun. That's going to be the fun of your life. Oh, that just reminded me of a memory. You know, because not that I was totally aware of what's happening to my grandfather, right? They didn't give me a whole bunch of info. So, you know, I remember once I had a little wheelbarrow. We go on trips and go to Canada, right, where my grandfather lived, and you know, they had this house on a lake. I mean, really, you know, it's a really farm, fantastic place. Anyway, you know, but it's too cold up there, so fuck it. Really great in the summer. Anyway, so, you know, they bought stuff, you know, and there was stuff on a porch. So it was stuff that we didn't take with us because we already had a car full of crap, you know, it was on vacation. So it was stuff I only had when I went there. And there was a plastic wheelbarrow, and I loved this thing. And so, but my grandfather was getting treatments for leukemia. I didn't know this, right? So he wasn't feeling too damn good. And, you know, blood transfusions and whatnot. And, you know, I was outside banging around with the little plastic wheelbarrow. And I remember, you know, my grandmother yelling at me, "Shut the fuck up, you little bastard." And I didn't really understand, you know. and I felt really guilty about I did something really wrong, but somebody had to yell at me and, you know, call me a little shit. You know, but I'm just saying, and then I find out why, and I'm like, oh, shit. I mean, I didn't understand. Okay, I didn't understand, and I did the wrong thing. And so, you know, basically, I'm just trying to tell you people what you're doing. Okay, you're a little, you know, you pro-lifers, you're a little obnoxious kid with a wheelbarrow, and you're just torturing people, and you're just defending torture. And, you know, if there was a heaven and you went there and you got enlightened, you know, if you believed in your little fantasy worlds about what you learn, you're going to learn. And you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel stupid. You're going to say, well, why didn't somebody just tell me I was making all that racket? I was being obnoxious. I was being an arrogant fuck to think I can control any of this and I can protect and I'll ensure that my kids will be okay and I won't be creating a huge, giant pile of garbagey mess, ugly, disgusting mess. Well, you don't have any right to think you have any of those things. That's control over any of this. That's all magical thinking. That's all absolute bullshit. You know. And so just understand that, you know, you're not going to win. Your side's not going to win. The educated perspective is not your simple-minded, God will take care of it bullshit. It'll all work out for the best bullshit. It's not going to do any of that crap. Little 18-year-old boys are going to be killed in wars. Little stupid asshole bullshit shit is going to happen, and it's all going to be your fucking fault. You dumbass. You know, is that what you want on your tombstone? This dumbass showed up on Earth, played the game the stupidest way possible. The game was obviously stupid. The game obviously can't function. The system can't possibly work. Well, I'll just steal it from somebody else. I'll just steal somebody else's labor. I'll just steal somebody else's... I'll steal. Obviously can't work. Can't do anything but create victims. There's no better system in the sense that there's no... There's no utopia to go to. It doesn't exist. You can't create the mechanism that makes it happen. You can't create the paradise until you create the desert around it. You have to create the desert that people have to walk through first to even realize they're in paradise, you idiots. You can't make the great fantasy until you have the horror you're living in, you jerk. See, I'm not supposed to say jerk. I'm supposed to say, you lovely person with, you know, really stupid and moronic notions in your fucktarded, creepy, scummy brain. Anyway, so this mission really shouldn't be difficult. I mean, what is there to explain? I could figure out when I was 5 years old, and you can't figure out there's something to be scared to death of here? There's a gigantic pause buttons blinking all over the place. Yield. The yellow lights are everywhere. I mean, the red lights are everywhere. But even there's so many fucking yellow lights that you already should get the idea that I got to take my foot off the gas pedal. You should at least be able to do that. At least say, okay, I'm not going to step on the gas. That would be stupid. There's all kinds of warning signs, skull and crossbones, all kinds of shit here. And you're sitting there saying, everybody step on the gas. No, don't step on the gas. I mean, okay, maybe I can't get you to step on the brake, but I should at least be able to get you to yield, okay, in the sense of let it go. Let go the pressure. Pull back a little bit. Anyway. So, I mean, you shouldn't have to read the classics to know this is just, I mean, brick wall, over the cliff. These aren't good outcomes. And you have no good reason to think you're not heading for another Noah flood. That even if you believe in your silly God, he's going to decide, oh, they're just not worth it. Fuck it. I'll do it again. Even though I said I wouldn't do it again, I'm going to do it again. Anyway. I mean, you just, you know, like I said, this should not be this difficult. Shit. Alright, well, it shouldn't be. And I should be able to master, you know, managing the retards. I should be able to speak enough retard, you know, to fool the retards into chasing the... Look, chase this balloon instead. Look, little blue balloon, okay? Fuck the pink balloon. Pink balloon bad. Got dog dew on it. Don't chase the pink balloon. Chase this little blue one over here. Chasey, chasey. Run, run, run. Fun, fun, fun. Come on. Step on the gas. No. Step on the brake. Yeah. No more gas pedal. Gas pedal bad. Gas pedal bad. Bad. Bad gas pedal. Brake pedal. Friend. Yeah. It likes you. It thinks you're a hero. it so much wants to hug you. Yeah. Brake pedal good. Anyway. That was eccentric. It's good to be a little eccentric, but there's probably a line again. All these systems, there's, you know, it's always... It's all these damn fucking rules, you know. Too much, no good. Too little, no good. It has to be just right. Fuck. Anyway. So, till the next time, when I will attempt to put another point of view, you know, cast some new light, maybe some red light or green light, some other kind of light on the subject, and see if some part of it is now visible for you, and you can get this terribly complex idea that life isn't just a big bucket of fun. Yeah, no. It's terror and torment and harassment and annoying kids with, you know, noisy plastic wheelbarrows. And that's not good. Anyway, till the next time and such. So forth. And the whatnot.